Most people don't actually hate their job. That's the uncomfortable truth no one likes to admit. What they hate is how the job makes them feel when they wake up in the morning. They hate the weight in the chest, the silent resistance before getting out of bed, the sense that the day is already stealing something from them before it even begins. Over time, that feeling gets attached to the job itself, and the mind does what it always does best: it simplifies. "I hate my job" becomes the explanation for everything: fatigue, lack of motivation, irritation, even sadness. But here's something rarely discussed: motivation is not created by changing your job first. Motivation is created by changing the relationship you have with what you do every day. And that relationship lives entirely inside your mind. The brain doesn't respond to reality as it is. It responds to meaning. Two people can do the same job, sit at the same desk, earn the same salary, and experience completely different emotional lives. One feels drained, trapped, resentful. The other feels stable, useful, even proud. The difference is not intelligence, luck, or talent. It's the mental frame through which the work is experienced. When motivation disappears, it's rarely because the job became harder. It disappears because the job lost its meaning, or worse, because your mind quietly turned it into an enemy. Once that happens, every email feels like an attack, every meeting feels like a waste of life, and every Monday feels like a punishment. The brain goes into survival mode, not growth mode. The first mental trick to fall back in love with your job again is deceptively simple, yet incredibly powerful: stop asking whether you like your job, and start asking what the job is currently giving you. Most people only evaluate work emotionally. Do I enjoy this? But enjoyment is unstable. It depends on mood, sleep, recognition, and comparison. Value is different. Value is grounding. Even the most boring job provides something concrete. It might be financial stability, structure, skill development, or simply the ability to fund the life you actually care about. When the brain loses sight of that exchange, resentment grows. The moment you consciously reconnect effort with benefit, the nervous system relaxes. You're no longer being robbed of time, you're making a trade. Another powerful mental shift is to stop seeing work as a place where you must feel motivated before you act. This is one of the biggest lies modern culture has sold us. Motivation does not come first. Action does. Waiting to feel motivated before going to work is like waiting to feel strong before going to the gym. Strength is built during the process, not before it. When you reverse the order, when you show up first and allow motivation to catch up later, the brain slowly relearns something important: work is not a threat. Each small action completed sends a signal of competence. Competence creates confidence. Confidence creates motivation. This loop doesn't start with emotion. It starts with movement. Another mental cheat that changes everything is what psychologists call identity alignment. Most people go to work thinking, "I have to do this job." But the brain responds very differently to the sentence, "This is what someone like me does." When work becomes part of your identity, not in a corporate sense, but in a personal one, it stops feeling external and imposed. You're no longer just an employee completing tasks. You're someone who is reliable. Someone who follows through. Someone who finishes what they start. Someone who knows how to handle responsibility even when it's uncomfortable. That identity has weight. And the brain hates inconsistency. Once you see yourself that way, skipping effort creates internal tension, while showing up creates internal peace. Another reason people lose motivation is because their job becomes mentally infinite. There is always more to do, more to fix, more to answer. The mind never feels done. One powerful trick is to create artificial finish lines. The brain loves completion. It craves it. When you clearly define what enough looks like for a day, even if it's arbitrary, you allow the nervous system to relax. Work becomes a series of closed loops instead of an endless tunnel. This is why people feel strangely satisfied after finishing something small, even if it's not important. Completion restores a sense of control. There is also a deeply underestimated trick that feels almost too simple to matter: changing the narrative of effort. Most people internally describe effort as sacrifice. I'm losing my time. I'm wasting my energy. But effort is not loss. Effort is investment. The brain reacts completely differently when effort is framed as something that builds rather than drains. When you tell yourself, "This effort is shaping me," even a dull task becomes tolerable. Not because it's suddenly exciting, but because it has purpose. The job becomes training, not punishment. And training, even when hard, feels meaningful. Another mental shift that reignites motivation is removing emotional expectations from work. Many people secretly want their job to fulfill them emotionally. They want passion, excitement, validation, and constant stimulation. When reality doesn't deliver, disappointment turns into disengagement. But work was never designed to meet all emotional needs. That's not its role. When you release your job from the responsibility of making you happy, it paradoxically becomes lighter. You stop fighting it. You stop resenting it. And once the pressure is gone, appreciation has room to return. One of the most effective psychological cheats is contrast. The brain adapts quickly to comfort and forgets how fragile stability actually is. When motivation drops, consciously imagining the absence of your job without dramatizing it, just realistically, can be grounding. The loss of income, structure, routine, and autonomy is something the brain tends to ignore until it's gone. This isn't about fear. It's about perspective. Gratitude grounded in reality, not guilt, restores balance. Work stops being the enemy and becomes the anchor it actually is. There's also the power of micro-ownership. Motivation dies when everything feels imposed. But when you intentionally choose one small thing to fully own, how you organize your space, how you handle one task, how you communicate, it changes the emotional tone of the day. Autonomy, even in tiny doses, reactivates engagement. Another overlooked mental trick is to stop labeling your tiredness as failure. Being tired does not mean you're unmotivated. It means you're human. When fatigue is interpreted as weakness, the mind rebels. When it's accepted as a normal cost of effort, resistance softens. The same applies to bad days. A bad day at work doesn't mean the job is wrong. It means the day was bad. Separating momentary discomfort from permanent conclusions is a skill that protects motivation over time. Finally, the most important mental cheat of all is understanding that loving your job again doesn't mean loving every moment of it. Love is not constant excitement. Love is commitment without illusion. It's choosing to show up even when the feeling isn't there, because you understand what the process is building inside you. When you stop demanding that work entertain you, validate you, or define you, and instead allow it to support you, train you, and fund your life, something unexpected happens. Resistance fades. Energy returns. Motivation stops being something you chase and becomes something that quietly follows you. And if this way of thinking resonates with you, if you want to keep rebuilding discipline, clarity, and motivation from the inside out, then make sure to subscribe to the channel. Everything here is designed to help you reshape the way you think so your daily life stops feeling like a burden and starts feeling like progress. Because loving your job again doesn't start with changing where you work. It starts with changing how you see yourself while you work.